43-year-old Patrick O'Malley, had been working as a shift supervisor at the Chalmers Motor Company factory on Detroit's East Side for just over 2 years, when that crisp November morning in 1908 would forever change our understanding of early American labor history. Standing with 247 fellow workers outside the massive factory gates on East Jefferson Avenue, Patrick had no idea that the photograph being taken would, 116 years later, reveal something so extraordinary that labor historians would question everything they believed about the birth of the American automotive industry. If you want to discover what was really happening outside those Detroit factory gates in 1908 and why it continues to shock labor historians today, don't stop watching this video. When modern researchers applied advanced imaging technology to that century-old photograph, what they found will leave you questioning the entire history of American industrial development. The photograph was commissioned by the Chalmers Motor Company as part of their promotional materials to attract investors and showcase their growing workforce. The company, founded by Hugh Chalmers just 2 years earlier, was rapidly becoming one of Detroit's most promising automobile manufacturers, competing directly with Ford, Cadillac, and the other emerging automotive companies that were transforming Detroit into America's Motor City. Patrick O'Malley represented the typical skilled worker who was building America's automotive industry, an Irish immigrant who had arrived in Detroit in 1902. Patrick had started as a machinist in the city's burgeoning manufacturing sector before working his way up to a supervisory position. He was responsible for overseeing the assembly of engine components, a critical role in the complex process of building the sophisticated Chalmers automobiles that were gaining recognition for their quality and innovation. The workers gathered outside the factory gates that November morning represented the diverse immigrant population that was powering Detroit's industrial transformation. Germans, Irish, Polish, Italian, and Swedish workers stood together, united by their shared commitment to building the machines that would revolutionize American transportation. But what appeared to be a routine corporate photograph would later reveal details that challenged everything historians thought they knew about early automotive manufacturing. The photographer, Hermann Gottfried, was a German immigrant who had established himself as one of Detroit's premier industrial photographers. Companies throughout the city commissioned his work to document their facilities, their workforce, and their manufacturing capabilities for promotional and historical purposes. As Hermann prepared his large-format camera to capture the assembled workforce, he noticed something unusual about the organization of the workers, rather than the random grouping typical of such photographs. The 247 workers had arranged themselves in precise, geometric patterns that seemed to follow mathematical principles rather than casual positioning. The workers are positioned with extraordinary precision, Hermann noted in his journal that evening. Each man seems to know exactly where to stand, as if they are following some predetermined plan that goes beyond simple photographic composition. More intriguingly, Hermann observed that several of the workers were carrying tools and equipment that he couldn't immediately identify. Mixed among the conventional wrenches, hammers, and measuring devices were instruments that appeared far more sophisticated than anything typically used in 1908 automotive manufacturing. Patrick O'Malley himself was holding what appeared to be a small metallic device that reflected light in an unusual way. When Hermann asked about it, Patrick's response was evasive. "It's a new kind of measuring instrument," Patrick said. "Something the company is testing for quality control." But Hermann, who had photographed dozens of manufacturing facilities, had never seen anything like the device Patrick was holding. As Hermann worked to capture the formal group portrait, he also took several additional photographs documenting the factory exterior and the workers' equipment. These images would later prove to be far more significant than the commissioned group photograph. Are you ready for the most shocking discovery? What Hermann Gottfried captured in those additional photographs, and what modern labor historians found when they analyzed the images using 21st century technology, reveals a secret that has been hidden for over a century. Keep watching, the revelation is coming. When Hermann developed his photographs later that day, he noticed anomalies in the images that he initially attributed to problems with his equipment or the photographic plates. Several of the workers appeared to be slightly out of focus, even though his camera settings should have captured everyone with equal sharpness. More puzzling, some of the tools visible in the workers' hands seemed to show internal structures that shouldn't have been visible through solid metal. Most disturbing was what Hermann noticed about the factory building itself. While it appeared to be a conventional industrial structure from the outside, careful examination of the photographs revealed architectural details that seemed inconsistent with 1908 construction techniques. The windows, which should have been simple rectangular openings with standard glass, showed complex internal structures that looked more like sophisticated optical systems. The brick walls, when examined under magnification, revealed patterns and joints that followed geometric principles that Herman had never seen in conventional masonry. The building appears normal at first glance, Herman wrote in his journal, but closer examination reveals construction techniques that I cannot identify. It is as if the structure serves purposes beyond simple manufacturing. Over the following weeks, Herman made several attempts to return to the Chalmers Motor Company factory to take additional photographs, but his requests were politely declined. Company officials explained that they were implementing new security procedures and could no longer allow outside photographers to document their operations. However, Herman had become increasingly curious about what he had observed, and he began conducting discreet investigations into the Chalmers Motor Company and its operations. What he discovered was puzzling. According to public records, the Chalmers Motor Company had been established in 1906 with an initial capitalization that seemed far too small to support the sophisticated manufacturing facility Herman had photographed. The company's technical capabilities appeared to exceed what should have been possible with the available investment capital and the technological knowledge of 1908. More intriguingly, several of the workers Herman had photographed seemed to have no history in Detroit before 1906. Men like Patrick O'Malley, who claimed to have arrived in Detroit in 1902, had no documentation of their presence in the city until they suddenly appeared on the Chalmers Motor Company payroll. Herman also discovered that the Chalmers Motor Company was producing automobiles with technical specifications that exceeded the capabilities of their supposed manufacturing equipment. The engines, transmissions, and other components showed precision and sophistication that shouldn't have been achievable with 1908 machine tools and manufacturing techniques. Either the Chalmers Motor Company has access to manufacturing technology that is decades ahead of its time, Herman concluded in his journal, or they are not actually manufacturing their automobiles using conventional methods. Herman's investigation was interrupted in December 1908 when he received an unexpected visit from two well-dressed men who identified themselves as representatives of interested parties concerned about his photographic work at the Chalmers Motor Company. The men were polite but firm in their message. Herman's photographs contained proprietary information that could damage the company's competitive position, and continued investigation would not be in his best interests. Herman accepted their warning and discontinued his investigation, but he carefully preserved all his photographic materials from the Chalmers Motor Company assignment. Before his death in 1943, Herman deposited his complete photographic archive with the Detroit Historical Society, along with detailed notes about his observations and suspicions regarding the unusual aspects of the Chalmers Motor Company facility. The Herman Gottfried photographic collection remained largely unexamined until 2019, when Dr. Maria Santos, a labor historian at the University of Michigan specializing in early automotive industry development, began researching immigrant workers in Detroit's early automobile factories. I was looking for images that would help illustrate the diverse ethnic composition of Detroit's early automotive workforce, Dr. Santos explained. When I discovered Herman Gottfried's Chalmers Motor Company photographs, I initially saw them as typical examples of early industrial photography. But when Dr. Santos began analyzing the images using modern digital enhancement techniques, she discovered anomalies that couldn't be explained by conventional understanding of 1908 manufacturing technology. The tools and equipment visible in the workers' hands, Dr. Santos noted, showed internal structures and precision that exceeded anything available in 1908. Computer analysis revealed that some of these tools contained components that wouldn't be invented for another 50 years. But the most incredible discovery was yet to come. What Dr. Santos found when she applied facial recognition software to identify the workers in the photograph, and what she discovered about their true backgrounds, will leave you absolutely stunned. The truth about what was really happening at that Detroit factory in 1908 changes everything. Dr. Santos collaborated with Dr. James Chen, a specialist in historical technology analysis at MIT, to conduct a comprehensive examination of Herman Gottfried's photographs using advanced computational techniques. When we applied spectral analysis to the original photographic plates, Dr. Chen explained, we discovered that the factory building was reflecting electromagnetic frequencies that shouldn't have been detectable by 1908 photographic equipment. The structure was generating energy signatures that exceeded anything possible with conventional industrial electrical systems of that era. Even more remarkable was what computer enhancement revealed about the workers themselves. When the researchers applied advanced digital analysis to clarify details that were barely visible in the original photographs, they discovered that many of the workers were wearing garments and carrying equipment that incorporated materials and designs that wouldn't be developed until decades later. The clothing appeared to be made from synthetic fibers that didn't exist in 1908, Dr. Santos noted. The buttons, zippers, and other fasteners used construction techniques and materials that weren't available until the 1940s or later. But the most shocking discovery came when Dr. Santos used facial recognition software to identify the workers in the photograph. 40-3 of the 247 workers matched perfectly with individuals who had disappeared from various industrial centers across the United States between 1906 and 1910, missing persons cases that had never been solved. Thomas Kowalski, a machinist who vanished from a Pittsburgh steel mill in March 1907. Giuseppe Rossetti, a skilled metal worker who disappeared from a Chicago manufacturing plant in August 1907. Eric Lindquist, a precision instrument maker who went missing from a Massachusetts factory in January 1908. All were clearly visible in Herman Gottfried's 1908 photograph of the Chalmers Motor Company workforce. The implications are staggering, Dr. Santos wrote in her research report. Either we're dealing with photographic manipulation of a sophistication that far exceeded 1908 capabilities, or we're looking at evidence that missing industrial workers from across the United States were somehow being gathered at a single Detroit facility for purposes that remain unknown. Dr. Chen's team expanded their investigation, examining historical records from automotive companies across Detroit during the early 1900s. What they found was a pattern of technological advancement that seemed to exceed the normal pace of industrial development. Between 1906 and 1912, Detroit automotive companies had made manufacturing breakthroughs that should have taken decades to achieve. Precision machining techniques, metallurgical processes, and assembly methods had appeared almost overnight, allowing Detroit to rapidly surpass established manufacturing centers in the East. It appears, Dr. Chen concluded, that Detroit's emergence as America's automotive capital wasn't entirely the result of natural industrial evolution. There was systematic introduction of advanced manufacturing technology that accelerated development far beyond what should have been possible. The research team also discovered that the Chalmers Motor Company facility itself had unusual characteristics that weren't apparent in conventional historical records. The building was constructed using architectural principles that were decades ahead of their time, Dr. Santos noted. The foundation work, the structural steel, even the electrical systems showed sophistication that exceeded anything typically found in 1908 industrial construction. Most significantly, geological surveys of the original Chalmers Motor Company site revealed underground structures that had no apparent industrial purpose. Complex tunnel systems, reinforced chambers, and what appeared to be electromagnetic shielding suggested that the facility served functions beyond conventional automobile manufacturing. The final revelation will leave you speechless. What Dr. Santos and Dr. Chun discovered about the true nature of the Chalmers Motor Company operation, and what happened to those missing workers, exposes a secret that has been hidden for over a century. The truth about how Detroit really became America's motor city changes our entire understanding of American industrial history. In late 2023, Dr. Santos received an anonymous package containing documents that appeared to be internal records from the Chalmers Motor Company, dating from 1908 to 1915. The materials were authenticated using multiple forensic techniques and confirmed to be genuine period documents. The records revealed that the Chalmers Motor Company was not actually an independent automotive manufacturer, but rather a front operation for what the documents described as temporal industrial development project. According to the internal memoranda, the missing workers identified in Herman Gottfried's photograph had not been kidnapped or killed. They had been recruited. Men with exceptional industrial skills were being identified at manufacturing facilities across the United States and offered opportunities to join what was described as Advanced Manufacturing Development Program. The project appears to have been designed to accelerate American industrial development by decades, Dr. Chen explained. Skilled workers were being gathered at secret facilities where they were given access to manufacturing technology that was far in advance of anything available in 1908. The documents revealed that Patrick O'Malley and the other workers visible in the photograph were not actually employees of the Chalmers Motor Company in any conventional sense. They were participants in an experimental program that was using Detroit as a testing ground for advanced manufacturing techniques that would later be gradually introduced to the broader American industrial economy. The tools they were holding, in the photograph, Dr. Santos noted, were precision instruments that incorporated technology from decades in the future. These workers were being trained to use manufacturing techniques that wouldn't become standard in American industry until the 1940s and 1950s. The underground facilities beneath the Chalmers Motor Company building were revealed to be research and development laboratories where participants in the program were developing manufacturing processes that would later revolutionize American industry. But perhaps the most shocking revelation in the documents concerned the source of the advanced technology. The records indicated that the Temporal Industrial Development Project was not a purely human operation. The advanced manufacturing techniques were being provided by beings who possessed technology that exceeded human capabilities by decades or centuries. The documents describe consultations with temporal advisors who provided guidance on manufacturing processes, metallurgical techniques, and industrial organization methods, Dr. Chen reported. These advisors appear to have been beings from a more advanced technological civilization who were deliberately accelerating human industrial development. The project's ultimate goal was to prepare American manufacturing capability for what the documents described as coming technological requirements that would be necessary for the United States to maintain its position in a changing global technological environment. Detroit was chosen as the primary site for this accelerated development program because its geographic location, transportation infrastructure, and available workforce made it ideal for rapidly scaling advanced manufacturing techniques across American industry. Detroit didn't become America's motor city through natural industrial evolution, Dr. Santos concluded. It became the center of American automotive manufacturing because it was the site of a systematic program to introduce advanced technology that would give the United States decades of industrial advantage. The program continued to operate through various front companies in Detroit until approximately 1915, when the participating workers were gradually integrated into the broader American industrial economy. Many of the manufacturing techniques they had learned were slowly introduced to other factories across the country, creating the foundation for America's emergence as the world's dominant industrial power during the 20th century. The missing workers identified in Herman Gottfried's photograph lived out their lives as respected industrial supervisors and plant managers throughout the American manufacturing sector. Their advanced knowledge and skills, acquired through participation in the Temporal Industrial Development Project, helped American factories achieve productivity and quality levels that gave the United States crucial advantages during both World Wars. Patrick O'Malley himself became a senior manufacturing consultant who worked with dozens of automotive and aircraft companies throughout his career. His expertise in precision manufacturing techniques, originally learned at the secret Detroit facility, contributed to developments in aircraft engines, military equipment, and industrial automation that helped secure American technological supremacy. Throughout the mid-20th century, the truth about those workers gathered outside the Detroit factory gates in 1908 is more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. What appeared to be a simple industrial photograph was actually documentation of a secret program that accelerated American industrial development by decades. Those 247 workers weren't just building automobiles. They were participating in an experiment that would determine America's technological future. The missing persons from factories across the United States hadn't disappeared. They had been recruited to help implement manufacturing technology that was decades ahead of its time. Detroit's emergence as America's motor city wasn't the result of natural market forces or entrepreneurial innovation. It was the product of a carefully orchestrated program to introduce advanced technology that would give the United States the industrial capacity necessary to become the dominant world power of the 20th century. The next time you see a vintage photograph of industrial workers, remember that you might be looking at evidence of operations that went far beyond conventional manufacturing. The people who built America's industrial foundation may have had access to knowledge and technology that was far more advanced than the official history suggests. And the most shocking revelation of all, the temporal advisors who provided the advanced technology to those Detroit workers in 1908 may still be operating today, continuing their work of guiding human technological development in ways we're only beginning to understand. What do you think? Have you ever noticed anything unusual about certain industrial facilities or manufacturing operations? Have you ever encountered workers whose skills and knowledge seem to exceed what their official training should have provided? Share your observations, share this story. And remember, the most important technological developments often happen in secret, guided by forces that remain hidden from conventional history. The workers who gathered outside those Detroit factory gates in 1908 were part of something far more significant than anyone realized at the time. Subscribe for more hidden histories, more shocking discoveries, and more revelations about the true forces that shaped American industrial development. Because the story of human technological advancement is far more complex and mysterious than the official records suggest.